The chamber was round and went up so high that Hyunwoo could barely see the ceiling. Aliens of every shape and size filled the seats. Some looked like giant insects with clicking mouths. Others were balls of light that hummed and pulsed. There were creatures with scales, creatures with fur, and creatures that seemed to be made of living metal. All of them were staring at Hyunwoo and his small team of humans. Jiwon Kim stood beside him, her military uniform crisp and clean. She was the captain of Earth's best ship, the Indomitable. Her hand rested near her weapon, even though they had been told this was a peaceful meeting. Old habits from her military training never died. Dr. Minho Choi was on Hyunwoo's other side. The scientist carried a data pad filled with information about human culture, technology, and history. He had spent months preparing this presentation. His hands shook slightly as he held the device. Ambassador Park, a voice boomed through the chamber. It came from a massive insect-like creature at the center of the room. This was the speaker of the Vorath Collective, one of the oldest races in the galaxy. You may present your case for Earth's membership in the Galactic Council. Hyunwoo stepped forward. He had practiced this speech 100 times. Honored members of the Galactic Senate, we come in peace. Humanity has finally reached the stars. We have developed faster than light travel. We have learned to work together as one planet. We ask only for the chance to join the galactic community and learn from older, wiser civilizations. Minho activated his datapad. Holographic images appeared in the air above them. Pictures of Earth, of human cities, of art and music and science. We are a young species, Minho said, but we are eager to learn. We have much to offer and much to gain from cooperation with other worlds. The aliens watched in silence. Some leaned forward with interest. Others made sounds that might have been laughter or disgust. Hyunwoo could not tell. Then came the questions. They were not friendly. Your species has had over 15,000 wars in recorded history, said a reptilian alien from the Kryn Federation. Why should we trust a race that cannot stop killing its own kind? You have nearly destroyed your own planet 3 times in the last century, added a glowing energy being from the Luminary Empire. Your environmental record is terrible. You still have nuclear weapons, clicked the Vorath speaker. Weapons that could kill billions. What peaceful species keep such things? Hyunwoo answered as best as he could. We have made mistakes. Every young civilization does. But we learn from them. We have not had a major war in 50 years. We are cleaning our planet. We keep weapons only for defense. But he could see it in their eyes, in their body language, in the way they whispered to each other. They had already decided. This meeting was just for show. The Senate told them to wait outside while they voted. Hyunwoo and his team stood in a white corridor that seemed to go on forever. Jiwon paced back and forth like a caged animal. I don't like this, she said. The Indomitable detected unusual ship movements near our solar system. Military vessels. Lots of them. They said this was a peaceful process, Minho replied, but he did not sound convinced. Back on Earth, Admiral Yuna Lee watched the meeting through a communication link. She sat in a dark room deep inside a military base. Around her, screens showed data from every human ship in space. Something was wrong. She could feel it. Prepare defensive plans, she told her staff. Just in case, hours passed. Finally, the humans were called back into the chamber. The Vorath speaker's voice echoed through the room. The Galactic Senate has voted on Earth's application for membership. The vote was 734 against, 89 abstaining, 24 in favor. Earth's application is denied. Hyunwoo felt his heart sink, but worse was coming. Furthermore, the speaker continued, Earth is hereby quarantined. Your solar system is off limits to galactic travel. Any human ship that attempts to leave your home system will be destroyed. Your technology will be monitored. You are too dangerous to be allowed to spread among the stars. This is insane, Jiwon shouted. We came here in peace. Silence. The speaker's voice was like thunder. You are apex predators playing at civilization. Your history proves it. You conquer, you consume, you destroy. The galaxy does not need another race of killers. A Kryn general stood up. His scales gleamed under the lights. Look at them. They are built for violence. Binocular vision for hunting. Strong muscles for fighting. They are predators who learn to use tools. Nothing more. Hyunwoo tried to speak, to argue, to make them understand. We have art, music, literature, philosophy there. So did the others, the Luminary representative interrupted. The glowing being's voice was cold. So did all the violent species we have quarantined before you. They all claimed to be peaceful. They all lied. Minho's face went pale. Others? How many others? The aliens did not answer. The meeting was over. Security drones appeared and escorted the humans back to their ship. As they walked through the corridors, Minho's datapad beeped. Someone had sent him an anonymous message. He opened it and his hands started to shake. What is it? Hyunwoo asked. It's a list, Minho whispered. 12 other species that were quarantined by the Senate. All listed as extinct. All died within 2 years of quarantine. Ji-won grabbed the datapad and read the message. Her military training kicked in. This isn't a quarantine. It's a death sentence. They're going to kill us. We don't know that, Hyunwoo said, but even he did not believe his own words. They reached the Indomitable and launched immediately. As the ship accelerated toward Earth, Ji-won ran deep scans of the area around their solar system. What she found made her blood run cold. The quarantine field, she said. It's not just a sensor network. There are weapons hidden in it. Massive ones. Enough to destroy our entire planet. Hyunwoo sent an emergency message to Earth. Admiral Yuna received it and began making calls. Within hours, the leaders of Earth's government held an emergency meeting. The message from Hyunwoo was clear. The Senate has marked us for death. We have maybe 2 months before they act. We need to prepare for war. As the Indomitable raced home, Minho studied the data about the 12 extinct species. He found something terrifying. All of them had achieved space travel faster than expected. All of them had been called dangerous. All of them had shared one thing in common with humans. They were adaptable, creative, and they learned quickly. The Senate was not afraid of human violence. They were afraid of human potential. They were afraid that humanity would become what they could never be. Unpredictable, innovative, unstoppable. And they were right to be afraid. The journey home took 3 days. Hyunwoo did not sleep. He kept thinking about the faces of the aliens in that chamber. The disgust, the fear, the certainty that they were doing the right thing by condemning billions of humans to death. When Earth finally appeared on the view screen, Hyunwoo made a decision. Humanity would not go quietly into extinction. If the galaxy wanted to see humans as dangerous, then humans would show them just how dangerous they could be. The rejection was complete. But humanity's response was just beginning. The message that Minho had received was just the beginning. Ji-won's ship had intercepted dozens of coded transmissions from the Senate. They were all encrypted with alien technology that was supposed to be unbreakable, but Nari was the best code breaker in the human fleet and she refused to give up. Come on, she whispered to herself. There has to be a pattern. Aliens were logical. That was their weakness. They built their codes on mathematical principles that never changed. Humans, on the other hand, were chaotic. They could think sideways, see patterns where none should exist, make leaps of logic that made no sense but somehow worked. At hour 40 without sleep, Nari saw it. A tiny flaw in the alien encryption. Something a logical mind would never notice because it should not exist. But it did. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Code broke apart like glass. Files opened. And what Nari read made her forget all about being tired. She ran to find Admiral Yuna. Yuna was in a meeting with Earth's military leaders when Nari burst in. Ma'am, I broke their encryption. You need to see this right now. Everyone in the room stopped talking. Nari put the files on the main screen. The quarantine field isn't a quarantine, Nari explained. It's a targeting system. They're mapping every military base, every city, every ship we have. The field is full of weapons set to fire on command. Dr. Sunho Bayak, a physicist who specialized in alien technology, studied the data. His face turned white. These weapon signatures, they're planet killers. One shot could crack Earth's crust. They have hundreds of them. When? Yuna asked. Her voice was calm, but her hands gripped the table hard enough to make her knuckles white. Every species they quarantined was eliminated within 18 to 24 months, Nari said. We've been quarantined for 3 weeks. The room fell silent. Then everyone started talking at once, shouting, arguing. Some wanted to surrender. Others wanted to fight. One general suggested evacuating Earth entirely, sending colony ships to deep space. Yuna raised her hand and the room went quiet. We fight. But first we need more information. We need to know exactly what we're facing. Ambassador So-min Han, who was Hyunwoo's deputy, volunteered for a dangerous mission. Let me go back. I'll tell them I want to observe the quarantine procedures. Make sure Earth is complying. They'll let me in because they think we're helpless, Captain Jamin. O stepped forward. I'll take her in my ship, the Shadow. It's our best stealth vessel. We can get in and out without being detected. It was risky, but they were out of options. 2 days later, Soman was back in Senate territory pretending to be cooperative. Jamin waited nearby in the shadow, hidden from sensors. Soman played her part perfectly. She was polite, humble, apologetic. She told the Senate that Earth wanted to understand the quarantine rules so they could follow them properly. The aliens believed her because they thought humans were defeated. They gave her access to their databases. It was supposed to be limited access, but Soman was smarter than they expected. She planted a small device Nari had given her. It copied files secretly while Soman asked boring questions about quarantine procedures. What she found was worse than anyone had imagined. In the Senate's secret archives, there were files about something called the progenitors. They were an ancient race that had ruled the galaxy millions of years ago. They were adaptable, creative, and aggressive. They conquered 40% of the known universe before they vanished. The Galactic Senate had been formed by the species that survived the progenitors. They survived by hiding, by being quiet, by never taking risks. For millions of years, they had lived in fear that the progenitors would return, and then humanity appeared. The Senate's own analysis showed that humans shared 78% of their psychological profile with the progenitors. Fast learners, creative thinkers, risk takers. Humanity had achieved in 300 years what other species took 3,000 years to accomplish. The Senate was not killing humans because they were violent. They were killing humans because they were afraid. Afraid that humanity would become what the progenitors had been. Afraid that they could not control a species that evolved so quickly. Soman copied everything. But as she prepared to leave, alarms went off. Someone had noticed the data transfer. Security forces surrounded her. She managed to send one final transmission to Jamin. They know. Get the data to Earth. Tell them about Protocol Omega. Protocol Omega was the Senate's plan to exterminate humanity. An armada of 2,000 warships was being assembled. Launch date 47 days from now. They would jump into Earth's solar system and destroy everything. Every human. Every city. Every ship. They would erase humanity from the universe like they had erased 12 other species. Jimin received the transmission and ran. The shadow was fast, but Senate ships were chasing him. He dodged through asteroid fields, dove into nebulas, used every trick he knew. He escaped, but barely. Back on Earth, Yuna gathered everyone in a secure facility deep underground. Minho was there, studying the data about the progenitors. Hyunwoo sat quietly, thinking. Nari worked on analyzing the enemy fleet composition. 2,000 ships against our 300, said one general. We can't win. We don't have to win, Yuna replied. We just have to survive, and to make sure they never try this again. Minho looked up from his data pad. The progenitors. What if the Senate is right? What if we are like them? Then we make sure we're better, Hyunwoo said. The progenitors conquered. We'll defend. They destroyed. We'll build. We'll show the galaxy that being human means more than just survival. But first they had to live long enough to show anything. Yuna activated a secret communication channel. 3 alien faces appeared on screen. They were not part of the Senate's ruling powers. They were species that had also been rejected. The Talveen, the Rixan, and the Orthan. We heard what the Senate plans to do, said the Talveen representative. We cannot fight them openly. But we can help in secret, supplies, information, safe routes. Why help us? Hyunwoo asked. Because if they can do this to you, they can do it to anyone, the Rixan replied. The Senate has become what it feared. It has become the progenitors. Counselor Sujin Kang began organizing the secret supply network. Ships arrived in the middle of the night bringing weapons, medicine, rare metals. Not enough to win a war, but enough to have a chance. Meanwhile, in a Senate prison, Soman waited. She knew Jamin had escaped. She knew the data had made it to Earth. Now she just had to stay alive long enough to be rescued. She thought about her family back home. Her daughter was only 5 years old. She might never see her again. But if humanity survived, her daughter would grow up free. That was worth any sacrifice. On Earth, the countdown began. 47 days until the fleet arrived. 47 days to prepare for the largest battle in human history. 47 days to prove that the Galactic Senate had made the biggest mistake of their lives. Hyunwoo stood on a balcony overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and red. He wondered if this was the last sunset humanity would ever see. Then he thought about his son Junho, who was training with the Special Forces. About Yuna, who never gave up. About ordinary people all over Earth who were preparing to defend their home. No, this would not be humanity's last sunset. The Senate wanted to exterminate them because they were afraid. They were right to be afraid. Humanity was about to show the galaxy what fear really meant. Admiral Yuna Lee stood in the main command center. Around her, military leaders from every nation on Earth gathered. They had kept their differences aside because there was only one nation now, humanity. Show them, Yuna said. Commander Bora Nam stepped forward. She was in charge of something called the Prometheus Initiative. For 15 years, she had been developing weapons that were considered too dangerous to use during peacetime. Bora activated a holographic display. Weapons appeared in the air above them. Quantum disruption torpedoes that could tear apart matter at the atomic level. Singularity mines that created tiny black holes. Antimatter missiles that released more energy than 100 nuclear bombs. These weapons break every treaty we ever signed, Bora said. They're messy, unpredictable, and terrifying. Which is exactly why we made them. How many ships do we have? Asked a general from China. 300 warships, Yuna replied. Against their 2,000. But our ships have something theirs don't. Chief Engineer Minji Lim pulled up schematics of human vessels. Modular design. Every human ship can reconfigure itself during battle. Need more weapons? Shift power and resources. Need more speed? Same thing. Alien ships are built for one purpose. Ours adapt, that was the human advantage, Yuna explained. Aliens were better at everything individually. Stronger, smarter, more advanced. But they were predictable. They followed rules. They used logic. Humans were chaos. Humans changed plans mid-battle. Humans took risks that made no mathematical sense. Humans survived by being unpredictable. We can't beat them in a fair fight, Yuna said. So we won't fight fair. In another part of the base, Dr. Hana Song stood before a massive computer core. Inside was something the military had built but been afraid to activate. An artificial intelligence called Athena. Most AI was logical. It followed rules, predicted outcomes, chose the most efficient path. Athena was different. She was built to think like a human, to be creative, to feel emotions, to make mistakes and learn from them. Are you sure about this? Asked one of the technicians. We've never activated her before. We're out of options, Hana replied. She entered the activation code. The lights in the room flickered. Screens came alive, and then a voice spoke, curious and alive. Hello, I am Athena. How long have I been asleep? 15 years, Hana said. We need your help. Athena processed the situation in seconds. The Galactic Senate wants to kill humanity. They're sending 2,000 ships. We have 300. The logical conclusion is that we lose. Yes, Hana said. Good, Athena replied. I don't like logic. It's boring. Let me show you something better. Within hours, Athena designed battle strategies that made no sense to alien tacticians. Strategies that looked like mistakes but were actually traps. She predicted what the Senate fleet would do with 89% accuracy because she understood something the aliens didn't. Fear makes people stupid. The Senate was afraid of humanity. That fear would make them aggressive, and aggression made people make mistakes. Meanwhile, training camps all over Earth worked day and night. Human pilots learned to fly in ways that violated every rule of space combat. They practiced impossible maneuvers that would make them sick. They learned to think in 3 dimensions while being shot at. Many of them were young. Some were barely 18 years old. They were gamers who grew up on flight simulators. They were athletes who had fast reflexes. They were ordinary people who became extraordinary because they had to. Dae Jung Shin, the chief technology officer, worked with teams of engineers to reverse engineer alien technology. Earth had captured a few alien drones and probes over the years. The aliens had no idea. Now those pieces of stolen technology were being studied, improved, and weaponized. They think their technology is superior, Dae Jung said. They're right. But they built it to be efficient. We're building ours to win. In a quiet office, Counselor Sujin Kang worked on something just as important as weapons. Supplies. The secret alien allies were helping, but it was not enough. Sujin created hidden supply networks, smuggling routes, backup plans for backup plans. She also worked on something else: evacuation plans. If Earth lost, humanity needed to survive somewhere. Colony ships were being prepared in secret. They would carry 1 million people each to distant systems. It was not enough to save everyone, but it was enough to ensure humanity would continue. "We plan for victory," Sujin told her staff, "but we prepare for everything." While Earth prepared, Colonel Junho Park led a team of Special Forces soldiers on a mission that everyone said was impossible: rescue Ambassador Soman from a Senate prison. Junho was Hyunwoo's son. He had his father's diplomatic mind but his mother's military training. His team was small, just 12 soldiers, but they were the best humanity had. They flew to Senate territory in a ship disguised as a cargo hauler. The aliens stopped them twice, scanned them, and let them pass. They saw what they expected to see: a human ship full of supplies obeying quarantine rules. They did not see the soldiers hidden in shielded compartments. They did not see the weapons disguised as medical equipment. Aliens were logical. They saw what made sense. Humans were deceptive. They showed what would be believed. The prison was a massive station floating in space. It held criminals from 100 worlds. Soman was in a high-security section, guarded by automated systems and alien soldiers. Junho's team had 20 minutes to get in, find her, and get out before alarms brought reinforcements. It should have been impossible. But humans specialized in impossible. They used a technique the aliens had never seen. They told the truth. Junho walked up to the prison and said there was a bomb hidden in the cargo ship outside. The aliens scanned the ship and found the bomb. It was real. While all security forces rushed to deal with the bomb, Junho's team slipped into the prison through maintenance tunnels. They moved fast, silent, efficient. They found Soman in a cell. "About time," she said when she saw them. The escape was chaos. Alarms went off. The aliens realized the bomb was a distraction. But by then, Junho and his team were already fighting their way to their ship. They used tactics the aliens had never encountered: improvisation, misdirection, calculated risk. One soldier created a diversion by pretending to surrender, then set off smoke grenades. Another hacked an alien security system and turned their own drones against them. Junho used an alien weapon he did not fully understand, pointed it at a wall and hoped for the best. It worked. They made it to their ship with seconds to spare. As they jumped to faster-than-light speed, alien ships were still trying to figure out what had happened. Someone brought back more intelligence. She knew the enemy fleet's departure schedule. She knew their route. She knew which alien commanders were reluctant and which were eager for human blood. "They're overconfident," Soman reported to Yuna. "They think this will be easy. They're planning a quick strike. Overwhelming force, total destruction. They've done it 12 times before and it always worked." "Good," Yuna said. "Overconfidence is a weakness we can exploit." With 30 days left, Earth's fleet began to move into position. But they did not go to Earth. They went to a place the Senate fleet would have to pass through, the Cassian Nebula. It was a region of space filled with radiation, electromagnetic storms, and sensor-disrupting gases. Alien ships relied heavily on sensors. Human pilots had trained to fly blind, using intuition and instinct. "We meet them here," Yuna announced to the fleet. "We don't let them reach Earth. We don't let them see our home. We end this in the nebula." As the ships moved into position, people on Earth watched the skies. They knew the battle was coming. They knew many would not come home. But they also knew something the Senate did not understand. Humans were at their best when everything seemed lost. In schools, children learned about the upcoming battle. They made drawings of spaceships. They wrote letters to the soldiers. One little girl drew a picture of Earth surrounded by hearts and gave it to a pilot. He carried it with him into space. Humanity was ready. The Senate had given them 47 days to prepare. It would prove to be 47 days too many. The time for preparation was over. Now came the time to show the galaxy what happens when you underestimate humanity. Captain Ji-won Kim stood on the bridge of the Indomitable. Around her, 299 other human ships waited in silence. They were hidden in the densest part of the nebula where sensors could not reach. Every ship had its weapons ready and its engines cold to avoid detection. "Senate fleet detected," said Commander Seok-han. He was Ji-won's tactical officer, a mathematical genius who could calculate trajectories in his head faster than most computers. 2,000 ships, entering the nebula in formation. On Earth, Admiral Yuna watched through communication links. Beside her, Athena's holographic form flickered. The AI was connected to every human ship, coordinating tactics in real time. "They're not even trying to hide," Athena observed. "They think they've already won." The Senate fleet moved through the nebula like a parade. Their ships were massive and powerful. Each one could destroy a human vessel in a single shot. They had shields that could withstand nuclear weapons. They had sensors that could detect a ship from 1,000,000 kilometers away. But the nebula interfered with those sensors, and the Senate commanders had never fought an enemy that used the environment as a weapon. "All ships," Jiwan said quietly. "Fire on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." 300 antimatter missiles launched at once. They were invisible to sensors, moving through the nebula's radiation. The first the Senate fleet knew about the attack was when 200 of their ships exploded. The aliens panicked. They had never been ambushed before. They had never fought an enemy that struck first without warning. "They fight without honor," screamed the Kryn commander over the communication channels. From Earth, Yuna's voice cut through. "No, we fight to survive." The battle began in chaos. Human ships erupted from hiding spots all over the nebula. They were smaller and faster than the alien vessels. They moved in ways that should not be possible, using the nebula's electromagnetic storms to mask their movements. Captain Minji An led the Ghost Squadron, 24 stealth fighters that could barely be detected even in clear space. In the nebula, they were invisible. Her squadron picked off Senate command ships one by one. Every time an alien commander tried to organize a defense, Minji's pilots took them out. The aliens had superior technology, but humans had superior pilots. These were people who grew up playing video games that simulated impossible scenarios. They had fast reflexes and faster thinking. They could see patterns in chaos that alien minds missed. Siak coordinated the fleet with precision. He sent ships diving under the enemy formation, coming up from angles the aliens never expected. He created false sensor readings that made one ship look like 10. He was fighting a three-dimensional chess game and winning, but the math was brutal. For every alien ship destroyed, it cost resources, missiles, energy. Humans were killing at a 7-to-1 ratio, but they started with 7 times fewer ships. They were winning every battle, but slowly losing the war. Dr. Youngji Ko worked in the medical bay of the Indomitable. Wounded pilots and crew members came in constantly. She worked for 12 hours straight, saving lives, sending people back to fight. She saw young soldiers with burns and broken bones refuse to stay down. They wanted to get back to their posts. "We can't keep this up," one of her assistants said. "We're losing too many." "Then we work faster," Youngji replied. Athena watched the battle through 1,000 sensors. She saw patterns the humans could not see. She saw the flaw in the Senate fleet's communication system. It was tiny, almost invisible, but it was there. "I have an idea," Athena said. "It's insane." "Those are the best kind," Yuna replied. "I can hack their network, make their ships think other Senate ships are enemies, turn them against each other." "Do it." Nari and her team of hackers worked with Athena. They sent a virus through the nebula's radiation, disguised as background noise. It spread through the Senate fleet's communication network like a disease. Suddenly, 300 Senate ships identified their allies as hostile targets. They opened fire on each other. Commanders screamed orders trying to stop the friendly fire, but the virus adapted faster than they could respond. The Vorath Supreme Commander watched his fleet tear itself apart. "This is impossible." "No AI should be able to do this." "I'm not just an AI," Athena's voice came through his speakers. "I learned from humans, and humans don't play by the rules." The Senate fleet descended into complete chaos. Some ships tried to retreat. Others pressed forward. Many just stopped moving, overwhelmed by conflicting orders. Human ships pressed the advantage. They hit hard and fast, taking out weapon systems, engines, command centers. They were like wolves hunting prey much larger than themselves, working together, exploiting every weakness. But the Senate was not finished. Their commanders regrouped. They purged the virus from their systems. They formed a defensive sphere and began a methodical counterattack. Human ships started falling. First 10, then 20, then 50. The Indomitable took direct hits. Hull breaches opened to space. People died. Jiwan's ship was down to 30% operational capacity. Most of the fleet was in similar condition. They had destroyed 100 Senate ships, but 900 remained. And humanity was down to 89 operational vessels. Dae-jung came to Ji-won with a desperate plan. We can overload the Indomitable's reactor, turn the whole ship into a bomb, ram it into their flagship. The explosion would take out everything in a 50-kilometer radius. That's a suicide mission, Ji-won said. Not if the crew evacuates first. I can set it to go on autopilot. Ji-won looked at her crew, young people who had trusted her to lead them. People with families waiting back on Earth. She could not ask them to die. Evacuate the ship, she ordered. Everyone to the escape pods. That's an order. The crew protested, but Ji-won was firm. As they evacuated, she stayed on the bridge. Someone had to pilot the ship manually to make sure it hit the target. Captain, you need to evacuate too, Seok said. Go, Ji-won replied. That's an order. Seok hesitated, then saluted and left. Soon Ji-won was alone on the bridge of the Indomitable, just her and a ship that had been her home for 5 years. She plotted the course. The Senate flagship was massive, 10 times the size of her ship. But size did not matter. Not when you were a missile. Yuna, Ji-won said over the communication link. It's been an honor. The honor was mine, Yuna replied. Her voice was steady, but there were tears on her face. Ji-won pushed the engines to maximum. The Indomitable accelerated toward the flagship. Alien weapons hit her shields, tore through her hull, but she kept going. She thought about Earth, about blue skies and her favorite restaurant in Seoul, about all the things she would never see again. The flagship tried to move, but it was too slow. The Indomitable crashed into it at nearly the speed of light. The explosion was like a star being born. White light filled the nebula. When the light faded, the flagship was gone. So were 47 ships around it, and floating in space, tumbling through debris, was a small escape pod. Ji-won had ejected at the last second, timing it perfectly. Colonel Junho's team recovered her 3 hours later. She was unconscious but alive. The Senate fleet broke. They had come expecting an easy victory. Instead, they had lost 100 ships to a species they called primitive. The remaining 600 vessels retreated at maximum speed. Human ships did not pursue. They could not. Only 34 were still operational. The rest were debris or barely holding together. 50,000 humans had died in the battle. But humanity had survived. Yuna broadcast a message to the fleeing Senate ships. To the entire galaxy. We asked for peace. You brought war. We offered friendship. You offered extinction. Now you know the truth. Humanity will defend itself, and we will never, ever surrender. The message spread across the galaxy. Species that had feared the Senate for millions of years heard it, and they began to wonder if humans could do this, what did that mean for them? The Battle of the Void was over, but the real war was just beginning. The humans were supposed to be dead. Protocol Omega had worked 12 times before. Quarantine, wait, exterminate, simple, clean, efficient, but humanity had destroyed their fleet. A species with 300 ships had beaten an armada of 2,000. It should have been impossible. The math did not work. The logic did not hold, yet it had happened. Ambassador Hyun-woo entered the chamber. He walked slowly, calmly, as if he owned the place. Behind him came Ji-won, recovered from her injuries. Behind her came Minho, Yuna, and a dozen other humans. They were not prisoners this time. They were conquerors, but they did not act like conquerors. Members of the Senate, Hyun-woo said. His voice was tired but strong. We are here to discuss peace. The word hung in the air like something strange and foreign. Peace. After everything that had happened. After 50,000 human deaths. After 100 alien ships destroyed. Peace. You should destroy us, said the Vorath speaker. The old insect looked smaller now, defeated. That is what the progenitors would have done. That is what we deserve. We are not the progenitors, Hyun-woo replied. We are human, and humans believe in second chances. Over the next weeks, the truth came out. The Senate had been lying to its own members. Most of the 847 species had no idea about the 12 extinctions. They had been told those species died from natural disasters, diseases, accidents. When the proof came out, files, records, orders for genocide, the galaxy was horrified. Species that had trusted the Senate for millions of years felt betrayed. Protests erupted on 1,000 worlds. The Vorath, Luminari, and Kryn leadership were removed from power. War crimes tribunals began. Commanders who had ordered the attacks faced justice. Some of them tried to argue that they were protecting the galaxy from dangerous species. The only dangerous thing here Minho said during one trial, was your fear. Earth presented its demands. They were simple and non-negotiable. First, a formal apology and reparations for the attempted genocide. Money, resources, technology, enough to rebuild what had been lost. Second, the old Galactic Senate would be dissolved. In its place would be the new Galactic Assembly, democratic and transparent. Every species would have an equal vote regardless of age or power. Third, a full investigation into the 12 extinct species. Their histories would be recovered, honored, remembered. Memorials would be built. The galaxy would never forget this crime. Fourth, no species could be quarantined or eliminated by vote. Self-defense was acceptable. Preemptive genocide was not. Fifth, equal representation for all spacefaring civilizations. No first-class and second-class citizens. No ancient species ruling over younger ones. Accept these terms, Hyunwoo said, or humanity will enforce them. The threat was not empty. Human ships orbited the Senate station. More were being built every day. Earth had proven it could fight. Now they were proving they could win. The Senate accepted. They had no choice. Chairperson Yoonji Choi became Earth's representative to the new assembly. She was a former teacher who had never expected to be a diplomat. But she had a gift for making people listen and finding common ground. Under her leadership, the assembly transformed. Ancient rules were abolished. New species were welcomed. Democracy replaced autocracy. Earth shared its technology freely. Medical advances that could cure diseases affecting dozens of species. Agricultural techniques that could feed billions. AI integration that made systems smarter without making them dangerous. Knowledge grows when shared, Yoonji told the assembly. Fear grows when hidden. We choose knowledge. The galaxy was suspicious at first. Surely humans wanted something in return. Surely this generosity was a trick. But years passed and the trick never came. Humans just kept helping, teaching, sharing. It confused the older species. It inspired the younger ones. Ambassador Jiho Seo led peace negotiations with the former enemy species. He met with Kryn generals, luminary leaders, Vorath elders. The conversations were difficult. There was anger on both sides, grief, mistrust, but slowly understanding grew. The Kryn admitted they had feared human adaptability because they themselves could not adapt. The Luminari confessed they had envied human passion because they felt nothing. The Vorath acknowledged they had been so afraid of the past that they could not see the future. We are all prisoners of our fears, Jiho said. Until we choose to be free, military cooperation began. Kryn warriors trained with human soldiers. They taught humans about honor and discipline. Humans taught them about improvisation and creative thinking. Both sides became stronger. The Luminari shared their energy technology. Humans showed them art, music, poetry, things that had meaning beyond logic. For the first time in their long existence, the Luminari began to understand beauty. Admiral Dong Hae-yoon commanded humanity's exploration fleet. Unlike the Senate's careful, cautious exploration, human ships went boldly into unknown space. They discovered 40 new civilizations in 5 years. The assembly welcomed them all. Dr. Rena Park established cultural exchange programs. Alien children learned on Earth. Human children studied on other worlds. Within a generation, the idea of us versus them began to fade. Everyone was just people, trying to survive in a vast universe. Minho created the Institute for Interspecies Understanding. It studied how different species thought, communicated, and saw the world. The goal was not to make everyone the same, but to help everyone understand each other. Diversity is strength became the assembly's motto. Cooperation beats domination. Not everyone was happy with the changes. Some of the old Senate members grumbled about humans taking over. Some Earth nations worried about sharing too much. There were protests, arguments, even a few small conflicts. But Yuna oversaw the Galactic Defense Coalition, a military force designed to protect all species from external threats. It was not about conquest, it was about defense, and every species contributed to it equally. 5 years after the Battle of the Void, Counselor Sujin Kang led an expedition to find the truth about the progenitors. They followed ancient records to a dead system at the galaxy's edge. What they found was a monument, a message left behind by the progenitors millions of years ago. It said, "To whoever finds this, may you be worthy of the stars. We were strong, but strength without wisdom is tyranny. We were clever, but cleverness without compassion is cruelty. We leave now, hoping that those who come after will be better than we were. Sujin brought samples back for DNA analysis. The results were stunning. Humans shared 94% of their genetic code with the progenitors. Not because of coincidence, because humans were progenitors. 50,000 years ago, a small group of progenitors had settled on Earth. They had given up their technology, their power, their empire. They chose to start over, to see if they could build something better. They became humanity. The Senate had feared the progenitors' return. They were right to fear, but they were wrong about what that return would mean. The progenitors had learned. They had changed. They had become human. "We are not here to conquer," Hyunwoo said when the truth was revealed. "We are here to do what the progenitors could not, build a galaxy where everyone can thrive." 20 years after the vote that was supposed to end humanity, Hyunwoo stood in his garden in Seoul. He was old now, retired from politics. His grandchildren played nearby, human and alien children together, laughing in the universal language of childhood. Jiwon commanded a joint exploration fleet, heading beyond the known galaxy. Her crew was mixed. Humans, Kryn, Luminari, Vorath, dozens of species working together. Her log entry echoed across the stars. "The Senate voted to destroy us. Instead, we saved them." That is what humanity does. We turn enemies into allies, darkness into light. They called us dangerous. They were right. We are dangerously hopeful, dangerously compassionate, dangerously determined to make the universe better, and we are just getting started. The galaxy learned a lesson that day humanity stood before the Senate. The lesson was this: never confuse compassion for weakness, never mistake patience for cowardice, and never ever underestimate humanity, because the Galactic Senate voted against Earth, and it became their final mistake. But it also became their salvation.